Well, that happened. uh, Eagles go down to defeat, and they're back at 500 at 5-5 with a 26 to 15 loss in Seattle. Um, I can't say I'm shocked. Um, you know, like I've always said, I call it like it is. I will always keep it 100% on this channel. I will always tell you how I feel 100% and try to break it down as best I can. The Eagles right now are not at a level of a Seattle Seahawks. They're just simply not there. And I know the old saying is any given Sunday, you can beat a team. To beat a team like Seattle, particularly in their building, you have to play a perfect game. And you take a look at the teams that beat Seattle, and basically all of them basically played a perfect game. Or they're in their division, like a Rams, like a Cardinals. I mean, the Niners haven't really fared well against them. Sorry, 49 cents, but they haven't really fared well against the Boom for a number of years. But the teams that beat them either know them, like teams in their division, they kind of know how to play them, or it's a team that just plays a perfect game against them, particularly in that building. That's a tough place to play. And I don't care what team you are in this league, that's a tough place to play. The Eagles, they had a shot. I mean, look, early on they were playing with them. I mean, they were right there with them, and then, of course, they got the illegal, what was it, the call that negated the touchdown, the illegal formation call. And, again, I mean, to beat a Seattle, you can't have that. You can't have points taken off the board. Just before the first half, I really don't understand the play calling there. Why are you not going to the sidelines without a timeout? The Eagles were without a timeout. There was a little over a minute to go, I believe, if I remember correct, maybe just under a minute. And it's like the first play of that drive, you're handing the ball off, and then you're just passing down the middle every play. I can't really say I understand that. At that point, it was a 9-point game, I believe. Even a field goal there, and you get the ball to start the second half. At least you get something. And it's like, why are you throwing the ball down the middle? Why? And, of course, Carson throws an interception. Look, there's no shame in throwing interceptions to Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman. I believe that's Richard Sherman's 30th career interception, if I remember that from the graphic afterwards. They're great players. And that secondary is something I wish we had here because, I mean, they're great. I mean, you are jealous of that because, we haven't had corners here in Philly since, Sheldon Brown and Lito Shepherd? I mean, that's been a long time. And Seattle's blessed to have, great cornerback play for a number of years. Of course, Richard Sherman leads the way. And it's like whoever's on the other side, whether it's Bobby Lane, I forget the name of it, Shed, I think is his name. I forget exactly. I think he got hurt today, actually. But whoever it is, I mean, and for a while there it was Browner. I mean, look, they're great corners. And they have two tremendous safeties. Maybe the greatest, I will say that the greatest tandem of safeties in the league. And Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, Bam Bam Cam. Great safeties. And it makes it easier also when you have a great defensive front. Even without Bennett, who didn't play today, getting pressure on the quarterback. Bobby Wagner is an elite linebacker in this league. Cliff Avril. I mean, they have a lot of elite-level players on that defense. And when you make mistakes, it just confounds it even more. And that defense is something similar that Philly fans can remember from back in the 70s. The Flyers had something like that, right? The bullies. That's what Seattle's defense is. They're the bullies. I mean, that's what they do. And the Eagles aren't the first team. It's not the last team. They're going to do that too. They did it to the Patriots last week in New England. Listen, the Seahawks are a team that's been very good for a number of years. They're an upper echelon franchise, upper echelon, I should say, team that's been doing this for the past 4 or 5, 4 seasons now. They have an elite level quarterback. They have an elite level defense. They have playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. The Eagles right now just simply do not have enough of that, particularly in the wide receiving core. And anyone who questions why Eagle fans are upset with this receivers, well, did you see the game today? It wasn't just because of Seattle's defense. It's just this is what the Eagles receivers do. They drop a lot of passes. They don't fight for the ball at times. I mean, Nelson Aguilar, I mean, I have no idea why he's still here. I mean, he doesn't serve any purpose on this team. I don't think he serves any purpose on any team right now in the NFL. He's not an NFL receiver. Um, you know, as the old saying goes, you are what your record is. And the Eagles right now are 5-5. They're 500. They're 1-5 on the road so far this season, I believe, if I remember correctly. And they're just a totally different team. Even on defense, I mean, look, this is a top. This team plays at home. They're like a top 2 defense in the league. They play on the road, and look, I mean, Russell made plays. That's what Russell does. You know, I thought going into this game, one of kind of the encouraging matchups would have been the Eagles' defensive line against the Seahawks' offensive line. I think the one Achilles heel in this Seahawks team, the one thing that they're not very strong at is offensive line. Although at times they played really well today, but it's just not a strength of their team. But it's Russell making plays. I mean, the protection breaks down and Russell's running around and he's just kind of improvising on the go, kind of slinging the ball, you know, here and there, and he makes plays. Russell Wilson has done this for a number of years. Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He was in back-to-back Super Bowls. You know, they're probably either a handoff or two for Marshawn Lynch from winning back-to-back Super Bowls at that point. Didn't happen, but one of the big reasons why they've had the success that they've had, and yes, they have a great defense. It's a top 2 defense in the league. Maybe some would call them the best defense in the league. I wouldn't argue that. They're great. They're tremendous. But one of the big reasons why this team has had the success that they've had for the past 3-4 seasons is number 3. It's Russell Wilson. Yes, he's my favorite quarterback in the league. I'm sorry. I know it's not the right night to say that, but I've been a fan of his since he was a rookie. He shares something in common with my dad. They both went to Wisconsin. I always liked Russell Wilson when he came out. I just thought he was a dynamic young quarterback, and he became my favorite quarterback since he was a rookie. And I've kind of followed him in his career and the Seahawks' success, you know, and yeah, I mean, I was happy for him when he won the Super Bowl. I was not happy when they lost the Super Bowl, particularly the way it ended. You know, my guy throwing the interception at the end, right? But I'm an Eagles fan. I don't want anyone to get any misconstrues about this. My team is the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the team that I love. I have my heart with them. You know, I live in the area, so this has been my team since 1993. I mean, I go back with this franchise, and I've had a lot of disappointing moments with this franchise. But I will say, and I will be, like I said, I keep it 100% with you guys. My favorite quarterback in the league is Russell Wilson. I wish he was here. I know there was a story that the Eagles wanted to draft him. Oh, man. Can you imagine that? You know, as close as they came to getting him, and Seattle got him first. It's just how it works out. Listen, I think Carson Wentz is going to be a really good quarterback. I think he has the makeup to be a great quarterback in this league. I believe in Carson Wentz as the Eagles quarterback, but I will say this. Priority number 1 this offseason, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I know they have other needs. Offensive line, it would be, you know, nice to see if they can re-sign Benny Logan. I think that there are other needs, obviously, with this team than this need, but the glaring need on this team, particularly when you have a young franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, is you got to get him weapons. And the receiving position on this team is marginal at best, and that's being kind. These are not NFL receivers. I think Jordan Matthews has a place in the NFL. I don't think that Nelson Aguilar or DGB have a place in the NFL. The only reason why DGB is in the NFL is because he's got size. He is not an NFL wide receiver. Nelson Aguilar is not an NFL wide receiver. Bryce Treggs, I think the jury's still out on. We just haven't seen enough of. Maybe he could be, but we really don't know. Jordan Matthews, again, I think he has a place on this team as a slot receiver. But you put him outside, that's not his spot. Yes, he drops passes, but I think he is certainly better than Aguilar or DGB. I don't know if that's saying much for him, but I certainly, I would keep him around. And he does seem to have a good rapport with Carson Wentz. So I would certainly keep him around for another few seasons. I'm sorry I'm sweating so much. I had the heat blasting in the car coming back, and I guess I got a little. I actually watched most of the game at Hooters today, and had a good time with some friends. But the game was a little disappointing. But anyhow, back on target. Receivers. The Eagles need receivers. And, for the other people and other fan bases who say, oh, you Eagle fans, all you do is complain, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you're a fan of a franchise that has wide receivers who are NFL caliber wide receivers, and you don't have to deal with this every week like we do. But we have a right to gripe, okay? So shut up and just watch your own team. Again, priority number one. Look, Deshaun Jackson once wore midnight green. I think it's time Deshaun Jackson wears midnight green again. He's a potential free agent. I know Terrell Pryor could be a potential free agent unless Cleveland hangs on to him. And I know with the PEDs and the 4-game suspension and Eagle fans, who all wanted Alshon Jeffrey. Now, no, we don't want him because he can have a 10-game suspension. Listen, I'll take the risk. Okay? And any Eagle fan who says they won't are lying. Lying. Because, okay, would you take Alshon Jeffrey and the chance that he screws up again and is out for 10 games, or Nelson Aguilar? Or Dorial Green-Beckham? What would you rather have? I thought so. Alshon Jeffrey it is. No. Look... To get two of these guys, obviously it's going to cost the moon, and you're probably not going to be able to get both. Unless you can get Jackson on a friendly 1-year contract, kind of a show-me type contract, bring him back, and see how it goes. Maybe you get Jeffrey and Jackson. I will take that 10 out of 10 times. Can you imagine this wide receiving core? Look, I mean, I'd still like to see more out of Zach Ertz. But I definitely think he could be a good weapon in this league if you use him a little more. I'd like to see more of the tight ends as a whole. I think right now they're the best receivers on the team. So I'd like to see more of a collective effort to get them the ball. Particularly in a West Coast style offense, you need to get the ball to the tight ends, and it's like they don't do enough of that. I don't know why. Clay Harbor, I mean, he's a guy I'd like to see a little more of. I know he's long in the tooth, but I mean, Brent Selleck. I mean, look, he's giving you what he can give you. He's a veteran. He's a leader. He's not what he used to be, but again, the tight ends. I think you match up these tight ends with real NFL wide receivers. Alshon Jeffrey on one side and Deshaun Jackson on the other side. I think you're seeing a bit of a difference. I thought it was funny, though. They said there was a stat, and, stats are what they are, but the Eagles averaged more plays of 20-plus yards so far this season, even with this horrid wide receiver core than Dallas. It's like the Eagles are one of the top teams in the league with 20-plus yard, plays, which is crazy if you think about it. But it just shows you what you can think of stats, right? But I will say this. It's a glaring need. And anyone who doesn't see it obviously doesn't know anything about football. This receiving core it's the worst it's one of the worst receiving cores I've ever seen. And I've been watching this team again since 1993. And this season, I will take Todd Pinkston and James Thrash over this. At least Thrash caught the ball. I mean, he wasn't... He wasn't a Pro Bowl wide receiver, but he would catch the ball, and then he would point his finger up every time afterwards. I mean, long gone are those days, but I don't know. What was the line that they used with Todd Pinkston once? Todd Pinkston doesn't have alligator arms, he has alligator body. I think you can certainly say that about Nelson Aguilar, too. I guess I don't know. But they need to improve this wide receiving core. I think it's pretty obvious, and I do think that Howie and the Brain Trust definitely see that. And look, it's a new regime And it's like they're not afraid to go out and make moves if they have to. And I do believe this offseason you'll see them, collect a wide receiver or two and find a way to get rid of DGB. And I forgot, I think maybe this might be Aguilar's last season in his rookie contract. I hope. But you can always drop the guy if need be this offseason. I think they should just drop him now. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about Paul Turner, bring him up. I would do it. Are you kidding me? Let's see what he's got. He can't be. I mean, you talk about a guy, and I know it's the preseason. I don't pay too much attention to the preseason, but you talk about a guy who was the leading receiver in the preseason, and that was without Carson Wentz for most of those games throwing the ball. Get him up there. Let's see what the kid's got. I mean, you brought Treggs up. Bring Paul Turner up. Let's see. It can't be any worse than Nelson frickin' Aguilar, okay? It can't. It can't. And I know he's an undersized receiver. It doesn't matter. Because Nelson Aguilar is he's a joke. He's got to be one of the worst wide receivers in the league. And I'm not just talking about dropping passes. Not fighting for the ball. I mean, he's afraid of everybody. It doesn't matter if you're going up against Seattle or you're going up, whatever defense they go up against, he's just afraid of everyone. He's afraid of the corners. He's afraid of the safeties. I don't want to fight for the ball. I don't know how to read the ball when it's in the air. I have no idea what this guy's deal is. I don't understand. I've hardly ever seen a receiver quite like this, to be honest. And again, I've been watching football for a number of years, and this is just... Thank you, Chip Kelly. Oh, my God. You would think an offensive-minded guy would know anything about offensive talent, but he just did. Chip Kelly really did a lot of bad things here. He just... Oh, my God. Depleting talent, getting rid of talent, and then drafting guys who can't play. Way to go, Chip. At least on offense. Drafting guys they can't play. Anyhow, the bottom line here is we all know what the big problems are with this team right now. Hopefully they'll be addressed this offseason. Look, the rest of the season, the funny thing is, even at 5-5, they still have a shot to make a wild card. I mean, we need the Redskins to lose tonight because the Giants win again. I mean, like I said last week, Dallas is going to win the division. I mean, they're 9-1 right now. Excuse me. Barring any catastrophic collapse, they're going to win the division. They're going to run away with it. But now it comes down to the wild cards, and right now the two teams on top of it are the Giants and the Redskins, and the Eagles are right in the mix at 5-5. This NFC East isn't the NFC least this year, is it? So look, they still have a shot. I mean, you get the Packers next Monday night at home. The good thing about that game is it's at home, where the Eagles are like a completely different team. This was tough, but you know what? Before the season, how many of us had this one as a win anyhow, right? It's just like how many of us had the Steelers game as a win, and they won that one, right? So it's like how many of us put an L in the column for this one already? Okay, I'm not happy with any loss. Don't get me wrong. Don't misconstrue, okay? I'm not happy with this. But I gotta say, they're not on that level. I mean, they're not on the level with the Seahawks right now. Maybe in a few years they will be. If they can build this thing right the way they got the quarterback in place. They got some defenders in place. They got, they have some pieces. They probably have more pieces than some other teams in the league right now, okay? It's about building this. And I know that this season they started out 3-0 and all of us were sky high with it. And then the bye week happened. And after the bye week, it's been like, oh my God, what the heck? It's like a light got switched, right? But this team right now is still in building mode. And that's something we all have to remember. And it sucks to lose. I know it does. I'm a Philadelphia sports fan. I've seen more losses than probably most other fan bases in any other city. Okay? I know it sucks. And I know all four of our teams are in this rebuilding, retooling, what have you. And it's tough to watch. And at times it's just like, when the hell are they just going to... Can we just, I don't know, buy some players and get better? But It's part of the process. I don't want to use the Sixers trust the process deal here, but it's part of the process. You're going to have to deal with games like this. The Eagles just are not on a level with the Seattle Seahawks, particularly in their building. They're just not. I mean, you play this team 10 times, maybe the Eagles win one game. Maybe if it's some crazy turnover at the end of the game or a missed field goal or, what have you, maybe. But they're just not on that level. And I'm saying that as an Eagles fan, but I always keep it 100%. And I know when a team is just better than the Eagles. And right now, the Seattle Seahawks are better than the Eagles. And it's not a lot of shame in saying that because that's a team that just a few years ago won a Super Bowl. And they were in another one the next year. That is an elite team in this league. And again, I will say this again, to beat them, you have to play a perfect game. And the Eagles just didn't. Turnovers, penalties, you can't have that. I mean, delay of game calls, false starts. You can't have that and hope to beat a Seattle. It's just not going to happen. Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson breaks contain. He makes plays with his feet and his arm. And today with his hands. He caught a touchdown pass. What else could he do? He did just about everything a quarterback can do and then some in a game to win a game. And right now he's just further along. He's further along in his NFL career than a Carson Wentz is. And you saw the difference tonight. Russell Wilson making plays, Carson Wentz, some tough interceptions. He had good numbers, but a lot of that came at the end where it was really, garbage time, and the Seahawks, had a big lead at that time. So, but look, I never say that a loss is good. I never say that I'm happy that they lose. But at the same time, it's like, look, they're just not on that level. And you saw that. You saw them play against an elite team. To be an elite team, you have to build it. And the Eagles right now are starting to build it. They're kind of here. To get to here, though, you have to get more pieces. You definitely have to have better wide receivers, offensive line, cornerback. These are things that the Eagles are going to have to address going forward. The rest of this season, again, could it be a playoff year? Absolutely. Could they make a wild card? Absolutely. They still have a shot. They play really well at home. Most of their games the rest of the season are at home. They got division games at home against teams that are going to be right there ahead of them in the wild card, like the Giants and the Redskins. They'll play them here. We'll see. That's the only reason that we still have a shot. Because, if one of those teams slip up and lose a game here and there, the Eagles can, win the home game and they can beat them at home, they have a shot. So the season isn't over tonight because they lost to Seattle and they're 5-5. It's not a good feeling, particularly after, coming off a win last week and, thought maybe we had a shot. And I said last week, they have a shot. If their defense plays dominant football like they did against Atlanta, against the top 3 offense in the league, top 2, top 1 offense even coming into that game, they have a shot. But Russell Wilson and that team is a whole different beast, even without beast mode. They're a whole different beast to go up against than in Atlanta, than in Minnesota, when Minnesota was rolling, even against the Pittsburgh. It just is a different team. That's a team that's been together for a number of years. They've won a lot of games. They have a Super Bowl championship. They've been to another one. They know how to win, and the Eagles right now are learning how to win. And that's the difference. And that's something I think we all have to remember. It always stings to lose. And I always say this. I've watched this team since '93. I've seen a lot of losses with this team. I've seen a lot of wins. I know what it takes to build a team. And I've seen other teams that do it, even like a Seattle. I see how these teams build their teams. It's something the Eagles are starting to do, which I'm happy for. And I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the future for our quarterback. I'm excited about the future for some of these other players on the team, some of these young guys. Not so much Aguilar and DGB, but some of the other young players they have on defense, like a Brandon Graham, like a Fletcher Cox. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the progression of these players. Wendell Smallwood. I'm excited to see him, in the next few years. Hopefully he'll become more bigger role in this offense. I'm excited for that because he seems to be, like he could be, a really good running back in this league. But again, it's about adding. And right now, it is, and I hate to say this, but we have to remember this in Eagles Nation, this team is still building. They're not there yet. Okay, this is a team that could be a wild card team this year. They could be. They might not be. But it's about building. It's about the building blocks. It's about the progression of Carson Wentz. It's about the progression of some of their other young guys. Doug Peterson as a head coach. Some of the coordinators. I mean, this is what you have to start at the ground level and move your way up. Chip Kelly left us at the ground level. And that's something we always have to remember about this season. Chip Kelly left the cupboard bare. Getting rid of star talent like a LaShawn McCoy, a Deshaun Jackson, not bringing back Jeremy Maclin. Decision making like that. And not just getting rid of them, but not really replacing them. Not really doing anything to replace them. Again, it's hard to start at the bottom, but in some ways that's where this team had to be. And now it's about moving up. And maybe they were ahead of where we thought they could be going in this season right now, 5-5. But it's about the progressions now, the rest of the season. They're going to have a shot. They're going to have a shot at the wild card. Some of those teams that lost today were big losses. The Cardinals with a loss. Some of the other teams too. But it's about right now, it's about still playing for a wild card shot. But it's also about seeing the progression of some of these young players. Seeing them grow. Maybe not so much the wideouts, but who will not be a part of this team's future. But the players who will be, it's about seeing them grow. I mean, a Jordan Hicks, another one, watching him progress as a linebacker, starting middle linebacker in this league. There are players on this team that we can be excited for going forward. And our quarterback is one of them, Carson Wentz. Just need to get him weapons at wide receiver. They need to do that. It might not come overnight. It might be a few-year process, but they got to start doing that this offseason. Tough one. You know what? I mean, what can you do? Sometimes you just have to say the other team's better. And Seattle right now is better. And even before the game, I think you would still say Seattle's better. They just are. And you tip the hat to them. They played a great game. I mean, they did what they had to do to get a W. The Eagles didn't. Too many mistakes. Tough one. It was a tough one. Because for the first half, you figure, you have a shot. They just could make this play or that play, and then it just fell apart. But that's what happens when you play a great team. You don't take advantage of some opportunities at the first half. It comes back to bite you. And it did. I mean, it really did. So the Eagles right now, again, 5-5 with a 26-15 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. They will play next Monday night against Green Bay, a team, again. This is a big game. This is a big game because the Eagles, as far as teams fighting for a wild card, Green Bay's in there too. If you can beat them, that's a tiebreaker. So if you can beat a Green Bay, get the 6-5, who knows? I mean, you have some winnable games on the schedule, coming up here. I mean, Green Bay is not the Green Bay of recent years. For whatever reason, they are just regressing like crazy, although we need them to win tonight against Washington. But they are regressing. Cincinnati, even though it's going to be on the road, and I know the Eagles are a different team on the road, that's a winnable game. Cincinnati right now not playing very well. They got some tough ones too. I mean, obviously, look, Baltimore on the road, that defense, they're still a top defense in this league. And you saw what happened today against Seattle on the road. So don't feel too great with these receivers going into that situation, but you never know. The home games. Obviously, got to take care of home field like they've done all season. 3 big division games at the end of the season, towards the end of the season. They got the Giants, they got the Redskins, which are wild card implication type games, and then they got Dallas at the end of the year. And Dallas, at that point, may have a lot of things wrapped up. I do think it's kind of funny if the Eagles play Dallas in that game, and Dallas is like, they have everything wrapped up, including somehow if they have home field wrapped up, and they just sit. Prescott, well, guess who's starting? Tony. So it might be the first appearance of Mr. Romo this season in Philadelphia. So maybe we play a rusty quarterback. You never know. I mean, that could help too. We owe them too. We owe them. So disappointed with the loss, but look, the Eagles just are not on the level of the Seahawks right now. A lot of and look, there's a lot of teams that aren't. Okay, Seattle's one of the best teams in the league. But to get there, you have to make those moves that they have to make in the offseason and to keep building this thing. Because right now they're there, but they can get there. It just takes making the right moves,
hopefully hitting on some more draft picks, and damn it, get some weapons at the wide receiver position, please, God. I miss that. I really do, and I know they didn't win. It's not like they went to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl with Jackson and Macklin, but boy, I miss those years. Imagine if they had them now with Wentz, how better things would be. Chip Kelly, you suck. Anyhow, that's going to do it. I've rambled on for 30 minutes plus. Thanks for everyone for watching. A tough one. Every loss is a tough one, but you know what? It's what it is. Seattle's a great team, and the Eagles, they're building to become something like that, hopefully. That's something that they can strive to try to be. All right, everyone. Well, I will see you all after the game next Monday night against the Packers. It is home, so that's a good thing. The Eagles are undefeated at home so far. They played so much better at home than on the road. So hopefully we'll have a W to talk about next week on Monday Night Football against Green Bay. And I'll see you all, as always. Go Birds. 5-5, but you know what? It could be worse. Could be worse, right? So 500 right now. Let's beat the Packers next week. Let's get above 500 again and take it from there. See what happens. We need some help, though. We need some of these teams, the Giants and the Redskins, we need them to lose some games. All right, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.